Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
Welcome and thank you for tuning into the GSMC Baseball Podcast here on the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Collin Manley. It is currently August 18th as of this recording, and I gotta admit it's a great day to talk about baseball. I have just been loving all of the stuff going on, fired up about talking about this game and the way the season has been feeling. It just feels like everything is taking a little bit of a shift as we're getting over this hump. Teams are starting to play better. These games are getting quite competitive. Offense is exploding. We still see some pitchers, though, that are dominating. I am loving this. The competitiveness level, it just feels as if it is rising, and it is an exciting thing. We have a lot of stuff to talk about here on the podcast today, such as, well, number one, we're going to get you your news and noise around the league. Got to get you caught up and up to date on all teams in the MLB. Then we're going to take a quick dive into some rookie talk because I think we have to talk about them a little bit more. I noticed that Evan talked about it in the last podcast. MLB Network had just released their top pipeline, but I want to dive into it as well because outside of just those top 10 rookies that they have on there, there's a lot of great rookies playing right now. So I want to talk about them. We're also going to talk about some real or fake. Want to discuss what we're seeing throughout the first half of the season. Yeah, we're getting close to the half mark. Not quite there, but we're getting there. 30 games is right around the corner, and we'll be there before you know it. And then I want to make sure that I take the time to dive into under-the-radar teams, because I saw an article about where the playoffs would put us right now, if the season ended right now, teams that would be going in. And I want to talk about who are under-the-radar teams that I wouldn't want to see in the playoffs, especially the first round. And I have my reasons as to why I want to go over that and talk about that. But we're going to start things off diving into, well, the Royals and Reds. Tuesday night's game between the Cincinnati Reds and Kansas City Royals has been postponed. So as of you hearing this has already happened for Tuesday night out of mainly a move of caution is what Major League Baseball is saying. The final two games of the series against the Pittsburgh Pirates for the Reds was also called off after a Cincinnati player had tested positive for the coronavirus on Friday. So they're just kind of continuing to move with some caution. But the plan as of right now, as of this recording, is that they plan to make the game up Wednesday with a doubleheader with the Kansas City Royals. So that's a positive sign moving forward for the team. We had some tensions get a little high the other night when it had to do with the Texas Rangers and San Diego Padres. If you did not see, Fernando Tatis hitting a grand slam on late in the game with a big lead rubbed some Texas Rangers the wrong way. In particular, Ian Gaba, who was throwing a pitch at Manny Machado afterwards, throwing it behind him, has received a suspension for 3 games. And also, the Rangers manager's Chris Woodward also received a 1-game suspension as a result of the pitcher's actions, the MLB had said in a statement. Really curious to see if that will be brought down, considering nobody was hit. And it's just interesting that the manager receives a 1 game for that. But that might hold up just because it is 1 game, too. So definitely an interesting topic. May dive into it a little bit later if we have the opportunity. Just the whole idea of the unwritten rules of baseball. And it's an interesting conversation because I think we're starting to gradually shift away from it. I don't think it's held as such a high standard as it maybe would have been in the past. I mean, I know I'm in the camp of if you don't want to get taken yard at any point in the game, maybe possibly don't start a count 3-0 and then lace a fastball there for the taking. But, that's my train of thought. Definitely a lot of other people that think differently, especially those with a little more older school mentality around the game. But another topic for another segment for sure. Talking about some injury news, well, that Padres team for sure, Kirby Yates, is likely to undergo season-ending surgery to address bone chips in his right elbow. Manager Jace Tingler said Monday. The announcement came after Yates got a second opinion on his ailing elbow. Yates is going to be a free agent at the end of the season. He definitely was off to a slow start in which he'd been held out of action multiple times due to some other small injuries as well. Was considered to be a top-end closer coming into this season, but luckily the Padres have a few other options that they're working with in their bullpen right now. I definitely am curious to see if Drew Pomeranz gets a little more of a nod at the end of the rotation now, considering how he's been having some good appearances out of the bullpen from time to time. Also for the Padres, their outfielder Tommy Pham is expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks after breaking the hamate bone in his left hand on Sunday. Manager Jace Tingler confirmed this with the MLB Network Radio. Pham sustained the injury while swinging at a pitch in the ninth inning of a 5-4 loss in Arizona. He was removed in the middle of that at-bat, so 4 to 6 weeks. Going to be a tough blow for the Padres and a very competitive NL West. You don't want to see anybody go down, especially as we're starting to get halfway through the season, especially one of their veteran players. Jacob deGrom for the Mets was scratched from his start on Friday against the Phillies with neck stiffness. He will start on Wednesday against the Marlins in Miami as of this moment. That's the plan. The two-time reigning National League Cy Young Award winner, he has started his season off with a 2.45 ERA over his first 4 outings. The thing that's funny about that is that's not awful considering a starter 2.45, but just for DeGrom, that's not his best either. So we'll see if it was just a minor setback and if he will get things going again shortly. The Mets have been not too bad as they've been trying to make a climb in the division, moving back up to 10-14. So this series with the Marlins could actually end up being some pretty big games for the team. DJ LeMahieu for the Yankees. Manager Aaron Boone said that his timetable to return is set at 2 to 3 weeks. The second baseman was placed on the 10-day IL list Sunday with a left thumb sprain, an injury that he suffered on a fourth-inning swing against the Red Sox right-hander Nathan Eovaldi on Saturday. So 2 to 3 weeks for the big-time hitter. Going to be interesting to see how he is coming back. Now, the Yankees are a team that just has some incredible depth, so this may not really hurt them to an extent, but LeMahieu has been awesome this season, to put it lightly, as he's been batting .411, 8 RBIs, 2 home runs. It's just been a good stick for them, having 30 hits through 73 at-bats. We'll see if he comes back within that 2 to 3 week stretch. Yasmani Grandal for the Chicago White Sox left with lower back stiffness in the 6th inning of Chicago's 7-2 victory over the Tigers. This one is scary because with a catcher, back problems is definitely not something you want to see. He fielded a little tapper in front of the plate and threw him out at first base, but when he was walking off the field, he was being attended to by the athletic trainer shortly, and he was replaced by James McCann. Right now they have him listed as day-to-day, which is optimistic news. Hope it doesn't linger, but if it does, don't be surprised if Grandal gets some more work at DH, considering that Edwin Encarnacion, how he's playing, or maybe even some work at first base, splitting between Jose Abreu. There's a lot of different things the White Sox could try to do. Well, Bo Bichette for the Blue Jays, he said that he felt something in his right knee while stretching on Saturday. The Blue Jays placed the shortstop on the 10-day IL list with what they called a right knee sprain Sunday. Manager Charlie Montoyo said early Sunday that Bichette was doing his just regular stretching routine before going to hit where he felt it. Didn't notify the Blue Jays until after the game, though, which was cut short by a rain delay regardless. So he got moved to the IL, hoping that he returns because he has been awesome for the Blue Jays. One of the fun players to watch, definitely, in this short season so far. When it comes to the Atlanta Braves, well, they placed Ronald Acuna Jr. on the 10-day IL list with some left wrist inflammation. There had been some hope that Acuna would be ready to play Monday after resting throughout the weekend, but the plan has altered. after the outfielder was further evaluated in Atlanta. Now, Acuna has not played since feeling any discomfort in his wrist shortly before Tuesday's night series opener against the Yankees, but the 22-year-old doesn't know exactly when the injury occurred. So that's a little bit of a scary thought if he's been playing through some stuff. But he believes he may have done it while diving back to a base recently. So we'll see when he comes back, even though Monday was the optimistic timeline. And the Braves, I'm sure, would love to have him come back, as they have been kind of fighting for their lives to stay atop the National League East, as they've made a little bit of ground from the Miami Marlins. Anything they can do to get back to full strength, I believe it. Next up, we have Ozzie Albies for the Braves as well, who hasn't played since August 4th because of a wrist contusion. He began swinging a bat Friday. He's expected to miss at least another week, and then hopefully to return with the team. Yordan Alvarez for the Astros was scratched from Houston's lineup on Sunday with what was called right knee discomfort. He was bothered by sore knees on and off during spring training, so this is definitely not anything new for the Astros, which put on pause the plans for him to play the outfield at times. Alvarez said he'd played with knee pain through much of 2019 when he won the American League Rookie of the Year award. So Alvarez appeared in just 2 games since rejoining the Astros last week. Definitely taking things slow, a little bit of caution. With such a young, promising player, you don't want to over-push it and make sure that things get worse before they even really get going. The Washington Nationals placed Steven Strasburg on the 10-day IL this Saturday with carpal tunnel neuritis of the right hand. The Nationals ace underwent nerve testing on the hand Monday and is slated to receive additional testing this week. So we will definitely be getting more information about Strasburg. Just bums me out. This news is just devastating. The guy was so great last year. The last time we saw him pitching full strength in the World Series, he was flat out dominant, and we don't know if we're going to get that same guy at all in 2020, and that just makes me sad. Also with the Nationals, Starlin Castro was placed on the 10-day IL list after he broke his right wrist while diving to make a play in the 6th inning of the Nationals' 6-2 loss to the Orioles in a game that was finished Friday afternoon after being suspended last Sunday. So Castro sought a second opinion on the wrist, and those results are still pending, but it's looking like he's not going to be returning anytime soon for the Nationals as well. Madison Bumgarner and those Diamondbacks, the team that's really been clicking recently, bringing things back to life as they're sitting 12-11 right now on a 5-game win streak. Well, Bumgarner was placed on that 10-day IL earlier in the week. Mid-back strain is what it was called. He threw a 38-pitch bullpen session on Thursday, set to be reevaluated before the next steps are determined in his full recovery. But that's going to be a positive sign moving forward. General Manager Mike Hazen said they thought he'd miss a couple starts, but things are looking positive for him, and that's just what the team needs to hear, because everything they'd seen out of him so far this season was not positive. Get him back on the right track and help a surging team right now. Those Diamondbacks are definitely getting a little scary. Carlos Estevez for the Rockies was summoned from the bullpen with 2 outs and the bases loaded against the Rangers on Sunday, and he had a comebacker strike him on the back of the right-handed wrist. He recovered the ball, threw it to first for the final of the game, but you could tell that he was struggling in pain, and it did not look good. He's being evaluated right now. Bud Black says it's too early for them to tell. They're not sure what's going to be the result, but they'll find out shortly. He's going to get some x-rays, and we'll see where he is coming back in the future. For the Philadelphia Phillies, Jay Bruce and Jane Segura had some injury news. Bruce exited Sunday's 6-2 victory over the Mets at Citizens Bank Park in the 5th inning due to a quadriceps issue. Segura had to come out of the game in the 7th inning with an injured hamstring. We're still waiting on some more information for them. It sounds like day-to-day at the moment. If anything escalates further, we'll have to get you updated on that. Edwin Rios for the Dodgers had a hamstring issue as well after legging out a double in the 2nd inning of the Dodgers' 8-3 victory over the Angels on Sunday. Stayed in the game, but later had to exit due to the injury, which the club described as a tight hamstring, considered day-to-day as well. And then Lastly, what we have is Roberto Perez for the Indians. He has been sidelined with a right shoulder strain since July 28th when he landed on the injured list 4 days after hurting his shoulder when he made an awkward throw to first base while falling to the ground. Terry Franconis of the club is targeting Tuesday's series opener against the Pirates, so today is what they're hoping that he will be back. They think it's a legitimate target, all things considered. It might still be a little bit quick, so don't be surprised if it takes him just a little bit longer to return to the field of play. So that's going to be it for news and noise around the league, getting you caught up and up to date on all 30 teams around the MLB. Hey, not just injury news this time, which is awesome. Wanted getting away from that. Also had some news on the coronavirus outbreak with the Reds. Looks to be pretty controlled. That's big. That's big news. We will have 30 teams potentially playing baseball games. It seems forever since that happened. It's been quite some time. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back. We're going to talk about some rookies. We got to talk about these guys this year. I think it's been unbelievable, the production we've seen from that group of players, and they just, darn it, they deserve some mentioning right now. And so we're going to give it to them after a quick break here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast on the GSMC Podcast Network.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
So I think it is about time that we actually talk a little bit about some rookies in this 60-game season. Can we take a moment to do that? Like, is it okay? I thought with a short season, there was a good chance rookies could be held back for some teams, while others were just going to kind of say, screw it. Let's just throw them into the fire and see what happens. And they have been just absolutely great this season. If you have not seen it, I saw that Evan talked about it in a previous podcast as well. MLB Pipeline just released a new rookie power rankings, and while it mainly covers just the top 10, there is more than just that. So let's talk about these early rookie performances and how they have impacted the season so far, because I just don't remember feeling this excited about a rookie class in quite some time, and I find myself actually checking in on quite a few of these guys' statistics, how they're playing, if they're getting more playing time. There's just a lot of things to be looking at going forward into the season. So the guy who has been kind of the top dog, been just great so far this season, is going to have to be Kyle Lewis. He has been outstanding for the Mariners, and they had him ranked number one on this list. He was number one on the previous list for MLP.com. He is slowed down a little bit, and it's funny. That's how they start this article off. He has slowed down a bit, but he's still batting .325 with 4 homers and 15 RBIs, leading all rookies in those categories. And the thing that I was concerned about was he was striking out a ton, and they broke this down there. He's brought his strikeout rate down. Just 7 strikeouts in his last 35 at-bats. His season rate is down to 27.4%, while walking in 11.6. So he has one of his weaknesses so far in this season, he has started to fix as it has been going on. And you don't see players come in and just start fixing things like that. At the time of the article being written, he was at 15 RBIs. He's bumped it up to 17. He's just been great for a team that's looking for anything right now positive. And in that American League, there is a ton of talented rookies. It doesn't matter, though. He has been just outstanding so far, and we'll see if he can keep pace and hold on for maybe even a potential Rookie of the Year award. Number 2, one of my favorite guys to watch so far this year as well. Seen him in 2 spots, and it's just lucky enough to see him in these 2 spots, is Randy Dobnak for the Twins. They didn't have him ranked on the previous list, jumping all the way up to number 2, so that's just telling you kind of how good he's been. Non-drafted free agent who really wasn't ranked high as a prospect. It is showing that him getting a start in the 2019 in a wild card game for the American League, it wasn't just a fluke thing. He is currently 3rd among all American League pitchers with a 1.42 ERA. So, earned run average, great. He's kept hitters hitting only 178 on him so far this season. Awesome. And if there is a concern to have about him, he's not a powerful strikeout pitcher. Sorry, that's just not his MO. That's not what he's doing. He only has strikeouts in 25 and 1/3 innings pitched. But regardless of that stat, it feels like it doesn't matter because he's not walking guys and people are not getting hits. Opponents are not getting on the base paths against Dobnak as he has a .87 ERA. Or I'm sorry, not ERA, whip. .87 whip over his first 5 starts. That is just some dominant, great pitching from the guy. And not only that, but he sports an amazing mustache. He's wearing goggles. He's just all-around excitement on the mound. You got to love what you're seeing. And the Twins, being a team that are going to be contenders in the playoffs, hoping to make a deep push, hey, having a great guy like Dobnak who's keeping people off the base paths is only going to help you out even more. Number 3 on their list has to be Luis Robert. I have a crush on this White Sox team with all of their young talent, and a big part of that has to be Luis Robert. I mean, just watching him play, watching him swing a bat, watching him in the outfield, watching everything he does, you can just see it. He passes the eye test. You know that he is good. Power, speed, combo, elite defense in the center field position. You can just see it. Now, his batting has taken a little bit of a slump. He was hitting the crap out of the ball, playing great out of the leadoff spot for the White Sox while Tim Anderson was away. But now that Tim Anderson's back, he's been awesome, so he's right back where he was, and it's moved Robert down in the lineup. He's hitting .264 now in August so far. Hit his 3rd home run of the year on Saturday, first since August 1st. 33% strikeout rate, that's a problem. But realistically, with a lot of these rookies, you're going to be dealing with that a little bit. So you think that he is going to figure that out. Things are only going to get better for him moving forward. He actually is up to 5 home runs in the season, 13 RBIs. He has to cut those strikeouts. That's going to be the biggest thing for him going forward. 4 stolen bases as well, so you know he likes to swipe a bag. Only 7 walks to those 31 strikeouts. It's just going to be a little plate discipline. That's going to be the turn for Luis Robert to make that next step to show that he's a great player. But you got to remember he's a rookie. I mean, he's a young prospect for this White Sox team, and you just have to be excited about these guys moving forward. Number 4 on the list is a guy that I was worried about getting play, but it's starting to happen. Jake Cronenworth. He's been getting more playing time filling in for Eric Hosmer at first base. But he has played all 4 infield spots for the Padres. And they are just trying to find any way to get his bat into the lineup. When I did my quarter mark awards, I didn't give him National League Rookie of the Year, but I said if the playing time is coming, he's a name to watch. Well, they're finding ways to put him on the field. And it is ending up to be a great idea for them as he's been slugging, batting .306. Probably weren't expecting that out of him this season as their lineup is loaded. They have some offensive pieces all over the place. Batting at that .306, 2 home runs, 2 triples, 5 doubles, 16 hits on the season. He's now up to 18 games played, which is a good number for him. That's only going to continue to climb, hopefully. And we'll have to see if he just continues to get more and more opportunities. I hope it happens. Fingers crossed. Cronenworth is another piece to helping this Padres offense just really pop off for the season. Number 5, well, we had another White Sox on the list, and Matt Foster, right-handed pitcher. He was called up at the end of July, and he's looking to be another valuable piece for the White Sox pitching staff. He is not allowed a run over his first 7 appearances, so 10 2/3 innings, just giving up 3 hits and 2 walks while striking out 15 batters so far. Foster showing that he has some good stuff on the year. And I feel a little bad for him, because knowing in the American League, you're not going to get a lot of consideration for any probably awards if you're going to be a guy out of the bullpen. But let alone, there's just so many hitters that have been so good that he may not get the votes. He may not get the consideration later in the season, but Foster's just been flat out good. I mean, when you're coming out of the bullpen, you're not giving up any runs, striking out more than one person in an inning. You're doing what you need to do to be successful. Keep going, man. It's been fun to watch. Number 6 on the list, James Karnachik for the Cleveland Indians. He gave up his first earned run of the season on August 12th, but he's continued to show that he just misses bats. 22 strikeouts and 11 1/3 innings pitched. He's been getting some late inning work as of right now, working in some stressful innings. All but one of his innings of work has come out of the 7th, 8th, and 9th for the Indians. And you just want to know what the heck they're doing in Cleveland to evaluate these pitchers, because they just continue to find guys that know what they're doing on the mound. Now they just need to take that ability in Cleveland and just start putting together a strong outfield, and they're going to be a happy, happy crew there in Cleveland. Number 7, Christian Javier. We talked about him a little bit for the Astros. He's been fun to watch just because his stuff. He gets hit around a little bit sometimes. Not awful. You can just see him when he's throwing. He's got some nasty, nasty stuff. He made his MLB debut this year in relief. Moved into the starting rotation. He's doing fine. Has a 2.91 ERA. Totally fine. 153 batting average against him, while striking out nearly almost 9 per inning. About 8.72 is what he's got. He's pitched into the 6th in 3 out of his 4 starts. He had a rough outing, like I said, on August 9th. And he came back and tossed a 1-hit, 6-inning appearance following it. So he's a bright spot for Houston, who they need a bright spot after they lost Verlander for a stretch of time. Getting any youth pitching is going to be great, even though they have Zach Greinke, who's on the older side as well. Anything to help this team out when it comes to starting games is going to be great, and it really looks like so far that Christian Javier is going to be a fun pitcher moving forward the rest of the year. Number 8 on the list ended up being Nick Solich for the Rangers, outfielder / second baseman. He's spent most of his time in center field, but he's played some left and second base with the Rangers. They just need his bat in the lineup. They're looking for any offense they can get. He just had a 6-game hit streak snap, but that's okay because he's still batting pretty dang well for the Rangers. As of recently, he was at 299. Need to double check that one for the Rangers. They just need any offense they can get. It bumped up just to 300. So 300, 20 games so far, 70 at-bats, 21 hits, 5 doubles, 1 home run, 8 RBIs. Any boost of offense they can get is what they're going to be looking for. Even has 3 steals, going 12 for 25 with 4 doubles to start off his debut. That's just a hot stretch no matter where you are. And the Rangers have to be happy, as they've been starting to turn their season around a little bit as well and fighting in that NL West. Just 2 games back of the Astros. Can you compliment some of your good starting pitchers? Because they've been giving up runs, but they've also just been not scoring enough. Only 81 runs on the season for the Rangers. So getting some performance from, Nick Solich has been a good boost, and he wasn't ranked in these rankings previously as well. Number 9, Jordan Romano for the Blue Jays. He was previously at the 6th spot. He has been just tough for Toronto out of their bullpen, which is big considering that Ken Giles has been not around for late game situations. So he gave up his first run of the year on Saturday, broke a scoreless streak of 9 innings, but it hasn't slowed him at all. Just 3 hits in 10 innings pitched, striking out 13, walking 4, bring that down a little bit. But even when people are making contact on him, it doesn't even matter. It's been leading to a lot of outs, which is something that you want to see, especially from a late inning reliever. If you're going to touch the ball, doesn't matter. Let it be outs. And then the 10th guy on this list, the guy that I thought, at least at the quarter mark, was going to be the NL Rookie of the Year for sure, would be Dustin May. Now, that could be changing around with the way Cronenworth has been playing. But Dustin May has been solid. Only 1 win in his stat column, but that's misleading. We learned that last year with like Jacob deGrom, who won the Cy Young. You can't just look at win-loss. That doesn't tell the story. The Dodgers have won 4 starts. That's a good step. He has been very solid through the rotation. If you've not been seeing little clips of him just with his nasty two-seamer, you are missing out. He's been steady and has spectacular stuff that is just nasty. The ERA right now is 3. Try to bring it down a little bit, but 3 isn't awful over 24 innings. 269 batting average, 1.25 whip. You want to get that whip down, get that below 1. He's going to keep getting better. He's going to get more innings, especially if he stays healthy in that Dodgers rotation. They're looking for starters to stay healthy. That's a guy that I'm excited about to watch continuously going forward as well. And they have some people on here that have fallen from their list, but there's still just other players out there who have been playing some great baseball, some guys that need to be playing a little bit more potentially as well. But the rookie class is loaded. It's just loaded, especially in the American League. So I'm going to be watching this going forward. Like I said, Jake Cronenworth has been exciting for me. Kyle Lewis, Luis Robert, I mean, those guys have just been studs so far this season. Continuing to watch, and there's some other guys that are just starting to get called up. Alec Boehm for the Phillies has just been called up. He's only got 4 games to him. And so far, 4 hits and 14 at-bats, 286. So we're just starting to see him. He could be creeping into some of these rankings as well as he continues to get some consistent play. The one thing that's going to stink about this season being only 60 games is consistent play will be hard to come by for some of them. That's just the reality of the situation. But from those that have already been getting it, bravo to you guys. You've been great. You've been exciting. I am just hoping that it continues to push forward because it's been great. One other guy that was not on this list that, Andres Jimenez for the New York Mets at shortstop, dipped a little bit down to 260, but he's still been a solid play, getting some action. I mean, they didn't even dive into all the pitchers. That's one thing that's interesting to see, as there's been a handful of guys that have been getting some action. We talked about Dobnik, Dustin May, Javier for Houston, but a guy that's also been all right for Houston as well that needs to get just a little bit is Brandon Bielak, who's had a 1.69 ERA. He's 3-0, 1.13 whip over 21 innings pitched. I mean, he's not even getting a mention in this article, not even an honorable mention. So it's been great. It's been exciting to watch. A lot of great prospects. Hoping to keep our eye on this. And when I get to do my halfway of the year awards, I think it's going to get tougher. And you know what? I'm prepared for it. I'm excited about it. So let's see if we can get to that point and have baseball keep rolling around, and we'll talk about those rookies some more. So that's going to be it for talking about rookies so far in this MLB season here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to talk about a breakdown of all the divisions, some of our league leaders, what we think is real, potentially fake on the season. Hey, it's got to start to be getting pretty real as we're getting about halfway through. So that's going to be it for this segment here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with more baseball news.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
We are back here at the GSMC Baseball Podcast on the GSMC Podcast Network. We need to talk about some real and fake and discuss what's going on around the league. And I want to talk about all of these teams. Where are they sitting now as we are getting to be about 25 games into the season? Are the standings starting to reflect more of what we thought coming into the season, or is there still some odd teams standing alone? I mean, it's been a fun season, but I think we're definitely starting to see some things at least come to the top of where we thought baseball was going to be. And starting off with the American League East, this one is just a fun mix of, well, we knew this was going to happen, but also, how the heck is this happening? The Yankees are standing atop. And they are easily standing on top because this offense is downright elite and dominant. At 16-6, recording this, 727 win percentage, the best in the American League at the time. They are 10-1 at home. Comfortable as all can be at home on a 6-game winning streak. They are plus 38 run differential. They have scored 125 runs so far this season. That is second in the MLB, and just an absurd amount of offense. And, oh, don't worry, they have some great starting pitching and also a great bullpen. Zach Britton has taken a hold of that closing role in the Yankees bullpen. Chapman came back, 1 inning of work, gave up a run. So you really don't know what he is yet, but when you're going to get late in that game, you have to have a lead on the Yankees. Otherwise, you are in trouble because they have a ways to shut that door pretty darn quick. Second place, that Tampa Bay Rays team that we thought was going to start creeping its way up, they're here as well. They've been good at home as well, 8-3, 14-9 record, easily over 500 now. It was a struggle to get there right away, but they're 8-2 in their last 10, plus 16 run differential. 121 runs scored. So their offense is just right behind the Yankees. Problem is they're not getting as much great pitching as we kind of expected them to, and that's something that we just is going to continue to change, we think. Those starters are just so good for Tampa Bay. There's a team I want to talk about a little bit later as well. And the offense is just low-key underrated. You may not know the names on the team. You may not know the roster, but they are finding ways to score. And as I'm doing this right now, they currently are leading the Yankees 4-0. I mean, they can go up and they can make anybody struggle. They're just a strong, strong team, and it's going to come down to some great pitching. And I think this team has one of the best 1, 2, 3 punches when healthy, when right. That Tampa Bay Rays team is going to be tough. And then the Baltimore Orioles, coming a little bit down to life, lost their last 2, but they're still 7-3 in their last 10. They're 12-10 above 500, and they could be a team that creeps in to the playoffs. And I worry about a team behind them a little bit. If Toronto starts figuring things out a tad, they could catch Baltimore. But Baltimore, you got to give them credit where credit's due. Their offense has been great as well, 114 runs. Their batting average for the team is quite high. They give up a lot of runs as well. Over 500, only scoring more than 2 runs than their opponents so far this season. And then you have the Blue Jays right behind them, who also are just a few games behind, 3 games. They're still trying to get their footing. At 8-11, though, they're not out of anything. They could go on a surge. They get Bo Bichette back. Things can get going for Toronto. And then the lowly Red Sox right now, they're sitting at the bottom. Hopefully going to be sellers. Start rebuilding that team because they need to get some pitching and they need to get it fast. The AL Central, the Minnesota Twins sit atop. 112 runs scored this year. They're 5-5, though, in their last 10 starts. 15-8 currently. They're playing just so-so baseball, and that's a scary line to be towing because the Cleveland Indians have been looking better as of late. They're 7-3 in their last 10 games, sitting at 13-9, just a game and a half back of the Twins. And this is going to be our two-man race. It's going to be this way in the Central, we think, quite a bit. The Chicago White Sox are lingering at 12-11. They've won their last 2 as well. They have a really good offense. If their pitching follows suit, they're going to be a tough team, a tough out in the American League Central. But if I were to be a betting man, I'd still be leaning on the Twins' offense being great as they've been getting enough pitching, and the Cleveland Indians just having some solid pitching, some great guys. I do wonder about all of the off-the-field things catching up to them at some point. Is Clevenger going to come back? Is Plesac going to come back? Are they going to get traded? There's a lot of information around that team that could help sway their season either way. But as of right now, things have been going well. And then you have the Tigers and Royals both slumping a little bit. Tigers have lost 6 in a row, and the Royals have lost 2, sitting at the bottom of the AL Central, getting to be a little bit more of what we thought they were going to be. The American League West, a team that has just been great. The Oakland A's, from the start, have been awesome. 121 runs on the season, plus 33 run differential. They have been 9-3 at home, 7-4 away, so they've been great in both spots, 7-3 in their last 10. Just having a nice strong grip on the American League West right now, as the Houston Astros behind them are surging on a 6-game win streak. They're getting some great play from some young guys. They're starting to get players that are turning their season around, except for Jose Altuve. He's been just continuing to struggle. But if you get more of these guys to continue to be strong, and then you have some guys come back healthy like Springer and Verlander, the Astros are going to be a problem. And it's going to be a shame for whatever team potentially draws them in the playoffs, because you got to imagine that they're going to make it. You got to believe that they would. But I believe that the Athletics could win this division and get a top 3 seed and be very comfortable at least going into the round of 3 playoffs in this American League. Behind the Astros, the Texas Rangers, they're lingering. They're there. Their offense just needs to pick it up. Giving up 112 runs, only scored 85. You're not going to cut it with their offensive production this year. They're lingering in that 500 mark, but they need to turn things around. Angels at 8-16, Mariners 7-17. Both just trying to figure things out themselves. The Angels have big names, can score runs, but they can't really stop teams from scoring runs. The Mariners have a mix of some young, fun players, but they've given up way too many runs this year, as well as they've given up 144 towards the top of the league in runs allowed. For the National League, the NL East, the Atlanta Braves sitting at 14-10, a game up on the Mariners. They're on a 3-game win streak. They are the only team in the NL East with a positive run differential at the moment. They're plus 16. Now, the Braves have to worry a little bit about the Marlins because they have some games to get caught up on. Marlins have lost their last 3, fallen a game behind, but they also have games to make up to catch up to that 60-game pace with other teams in baseball. Could hurt them, could help them. That's something that'll be interesting to see. But 4-6 in their last 10, it's really just the NL East is just looking for a team to run away with this thing. The Braves look comfortably up there at 14-10, but they're 5-5 in their last 10. The Marlins are 4-6, and the team behind, The Phillies, who also have games to make up, they're 5-5 in their last 10. They've won 3 in a row. The New York Mets are 5-5 in the last 10. They've won 1. They're 10-14. The Nationals have lost 1, but they're 4-6 in their last 10. So they're all hovering around that 500 mark. It doesn't feel like anyone's really making any ground anywhere. I wouldn't be shocked if the Nationals rise and someone just walks away with this thing. The NL East is open and up for grabs. And I'm surprised because I didn't think the Mets would be surviving the way they are. But with the help of 4 other teams in their division, nobody's really taking advantage of anything at the moment. So it's a questionable one. It could go any way. The Braves were the favorites to start the year. They've been towards the top for most of it, except for the little stint the Marlins spent there. But with so many games behind, you don't really know how to consider that one. It's going to be a fun race to watch for the rest of the year. For the National League Central, you have the Chicago Cubs sitting atop at 14-7. They are the class of the NL Central right now. They have offense. They have pitching. They just won. They're on a 1-game winning streak, but they did lose 3 to the Brewers in a recent series. The Brewers look to be turning things around at 10-10. They've won their last 3. Series starting with the Twins. It's a big series for them on Tuesday. Cardinals are at 5-5 now that they're starting to play games again. I still sit here and wonder what in the heck is going to happen with them. If all health permitted for the team and the opposing teams they play, will they get to the 60-game mark is the biggest question around this team. And if they don't reach that 60-game mark, what is their consideration for the playoffs? How are they going to do that? They're an interesting team just regardless going ahead. Their numbers are so small compared to everybody else. 5-5 in their last 10. Well, they've only played 10. 38 runs scored, 36 given up. So barely above in run differential. People would have thought at the beginning of the year this is a second-place team, potentially first-place team in the Central. But we have a lot more that we need to see out of them. Like we said, the Brewers sitting at 10-10, starting to click a little bit on offense. Things are going their way. 8-4 on the road, 2-6 at home. You would think that teams would be more comfortable, better at home. They're a team so far that has not been. The Cincinnati Reds are then there at 9-11. They're not out of anything yet either. Battling a little health problems as well. Got to turn their pitching around. 91 runs scored, 97 given up, so they have that negative differential, but they're flirting around the 500 mark. Just some more consistency out of that team would be great. You got Sonny Gray, you got Trevor Bauer. Good. The rest of the pitching needs to step it up. Offense, we need to get clicking, and they also have some players they need to get back from injuries. The National League, and then of course the Pittsburgh Pirates. I can't skim over them. I don't mean to bash on the Pirates. I mean, yes, I know you're having a bad season, 4-14 this year, but you're going to be some trade sellers. We'll see what happens with the Pirates. It's going to be definitely a rebuilding season for them. The National League West, the LA Dodgers have started that climb, 1-6 in a row, 139 runs scored. Easily tops in the MLB. 77 given up. This team is good. They're going to be favorites to come out of the National League. Deservingly so. It's scary because guys on this team are turning it around. Mookie Betts is starting to get hot. Things are going for him. You have Max Muncy. His numbers were coming up. Justin Turner, I believe, was starting to pick things up a little bit. I mean, they're getting great production from A.J. Pollock. This is a team that has, or sorry, not Muncy, but Justin Turner is turning it around. Mookie Betts, Turner, and A.J. Pollock have been great for them. Bellinger is still low. Muncy is still low, but with the production they're getting from Mookie so far this season, he leads them in batting average, home runs, RBIs, on-base percentage, and hits. He is turning it around, showing that he is an MVP player again, mocking the Red Sox still with how great he is. And they still have not called up what was supposed to be their big-time prospect in Gavin Lux. Why? Because Kiki Hernandez is still playing okay, getting some second base as well. So they haven't needed him. Edwin Rios has been playing a little bit as well. They just haven't needed Lux yet. And then pitching, while they've been working things in and out with some starter health issues, Ross Stripling is still 3-1 with a 5.61 ERA. Dustin May has been fine for them. Walker Buehler has 4 starts, 5.21 ERA, but they're still winning games. Clayton Kershaw, 2-1, 2.65 ERA. They're getting great production from these guys. Kenley Jansen's been great closing things. He's got 7 saves, only given up 1 run so far this season. They just look tough. They just look flat out tough. And they need to in a division that is going to be competitive. All 5 teams so far in the NL West have scored 100 runs. 3 of the 5 have a positive run differential. And the Rockies are falling off. They're 3-7 in their last 10. They were hotter than heck. They're starting to fall. The Diamondbacks team that we thought we were going to see at the beginning of the year, they've won 5 in a row. They're streaking. They're hoping that Madison Bumgarner is going to be coming back healthy. That's only going to boost them if he gives them some solid innings. The San Diego Padres know how to score runs. They have 127 runs. They're 13-12 at 4th place in the division with a positive run differential. The NL West is tough. I wonder if we could honestly, if the Rockies turn things around a little bit, if we can honestly see 4 teams out of this division potentially make the playoffs. And then you have the San Francisco Giants, who they've scored 115 runs as well. The problem is they got to play the Rockies, Diamondbacks, Padres, Dodgers. Oh, yeah, and then the Astros and the Athletics on their season. They've given up 153 runs. They can't keep people off the board, but yet they can still score. So it's been a fun and competitive division. I feel bad for those Giants. I mean, if we slid the Giants into another division, they might be, if we swap them with, let's say, the Pirates or something, and then they got to play in the NL Central, I wonder how much more competitive they potentially could be. So that's what we have looking at teams around. Just taking a quick look at some of our stat leaders. Charlie Blackmon has been ice cold recently, it feels like, but he's still batting .429, having himself a great season. DJ LeMahieu, who's got that injury hiatus coming his way, batting .411. Donovan Solano for San Francisco, staying alive at .392. That's been pretty awesome. And something we need to talk about because he has been great. Bryce Harper is batting .364 on the season. Did not see that one coming, did we? But, hey, a lot of people like to bash on Harper. A lot of people. But when he's good, baseball's better. I stand by it. Home run leaders, Fernando Tatis. That guy's been slugging. I don't care where you stand on unwritten rules or not. I'm glad he went after that ball and hit a grand slam personally. 11 home runs on the year. Mike Trout showing off the dad strength at 10. Talked about Mookie Betts at 9. Aaron Judge is at 9 as well. Nelson Cruz at 8. We're having some serious sluggers. We talked about 20 home runs being the mark for some guys at the end of the 60 games. We're not halfway through and we got guys at double digits, so that's impressive. RBI is also led by Tatis at 28, Nelson Cruz 23. Charlie Blackmon, 22, been great. Kyle Seager, quietly, 21. And also Anthony Santander for Baltimore, 22. Don't want to miss out on him because the Orioles' offense has been good. Hits, Blackmon leads the way with 39 as well. He's been awesome. Stolen bases, we got a lot of guys around 6. It hasn't been crazy for stolen bases, but we're not surprised with that. Pitching leaders, we got a lot of guys with 4 wins. Shane Bieber, Sonny Gray, Garrett Cole, Randy Dobnak. They've been awesome, but we have a lot of great other starters lingering around that 3-win mark, so good pitching from quite a few starters. ERA, Lance Lynn, been awesome for the Texas Ranger. He leads the league at 1.11. Then Max Fried, 1.24. That's huge for Atlanta considering all the injuries and problems they've had with getting starters on the field. And Shane Bieber at 1.30. Dobnak 1.42. And Frankie Montes for Oakland at 1.57. He's been great. In a year where closers are going to be incredibly valuable, Zach Britton, 8 saves. Leon Hendricks for Oakland with 7. Kenley Jansen with 7 as well. Continue to see some value from guys closing the door late in games. And Yankees, Oakland, Dodgers, that's been 3 of your best teams. No surprise. Those closers are towards the top of the list. Strikeouts, Shane Bieber is awesome at 54. I mean, he's sensing a pattern with him. He's had quite a few high strikeout games. Then Sonny Gray at 45 as well. Max Scherzer, 39, getting his name back on the list. Then Dylan Bundy, 38, and Aaron Nola, 37 strikeouts on the season. And then quality starts, we got a lot of guys that have at least 4 or better, but Kyle Freeland and Shane Bieber at 5 apiece so far this year. Been some great pitching from a lot of those guys. So that's going to be it for our look around the league. A lot of competitive baseball, but we're starting to see things at least lean towards what we were expecting from the start of the season. But hey, we got to give some surprise teams some shout outs as well. So we're going to make sure that we do that. And all those guys that are leading at the stats, I find it interesting that even 60 games in, we're seeing a lot of great players towards the top of the list. We got players that are in slumps, but we still have great players that have showed up and no real crazy surprises, which was an interesting thing that I wanted to watch at the beginning of the year. So that's going to be it for our dive around the league. We got one more segment left. We got to talk about some teams that I wouldn't want to see in the playoffs. We're going to dive into that here after a quick commercial break on the GSMC Baseball Podcast.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
We are back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, on the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Collin Manley, and we just got done talking about everything going on around the league, record-wise, where we are, some individual players leading the league in some major statistics. But I need to get into a topic that was intriguing to me. I love the 16 teams making the playoffs. I find it interesting. I'm fully hooked into this because with a season that's going to be so crazy, why not? Why not go into this and see where we are going to end up at the end and just put more teams in there? And I wanted to talk about the first round in particular because there was an article on MLB.com that talked about where we would be right now, what 16 teams would make the playoffs. And while there were a few surprises, there were still some teams that we thought were going to be competitive at the start of the year that may not have the record we were expecting. No problem with that. But I wanted to see if I could pinpoint some teams that would be just very scary in a 3-game series. And I have reasons why. If you paid attention early on in the season, the first 3-game series for a lot of MLB teams, they weren't sweeps. They weren't happening. It's very hard to take 3 games from somebody, let alone win the first 2 as well. We saw some interesting baseball in that a lot of those series went 1-1. And I'm a believer that anything can happen with this new playoff format. We could see teams with some major upsets. And I want to start off with my first one on a team that I would not want to see in the playoffs, at least in the first round. The Tampa Bay Rays scare the living crap out of me. I think that this rotation, starting rotation, can be one of the best when healthy, when right. We know how good Blake Snell is. He's only got 1 recorded win as of right now, but he's got 4 quality starts, 2.08 ERA. He's a top-notch starter. Charlie Morton hasn't been himself to start the year, but we know that he can also be a great starter to keep you competitive in games. He still strikes out 9 guys per 9 innings, trying to bring that ERA down. Only 1-1 on the season as well. And then Tyler Glasnow, also a guy with his ERA so incredibly high, but he's striking out almost 15 guys per 9 innings in this early season. He has great stuff with 27 strikeouts over 15 innings pitched. We have a team that could come in and flat out win just because of starters. This team reminds me a lot of the Nationals from last year, just because of pitching alone is going to keep them in games. And then they have a few offensive guys who maybe you're not familiar with their names, can be very productive. Brandon Lowe is having a great season for the Rays. 338 average, 7 home runs, 20 RBIs. How much you're hearing about Brandon Lowe, I imagine not too much. But he has been great. Yandy Diaz, 301, no home runs, but he has been a great average guy getting on base. His on-base percentage, 433. This is a team that's going to sneak up on you. You're going to get the Rays, and I don't think you know how much of a disadvantage you could be at early just because of how much they're going to outpitch you in a game. I wouldn't want to see them in the first round. Like I said, I could compare these guys greatly to the Nationals in the sense of it's a three-headed monster coming your way like they had with Scherzer, Strasburg, and Corbin last year. And I don't think they're going to catch the Yankees in the AL East, which means that somebody is going to get a tough break just because they didn't win their division. And that's how this playoffs is going to ultimately break this season. The next team that I wouldn't want to see if they snuck into the playoffs would be the Cincinnati Reds. And now they're sitting in 4th in the NL Central right now, but they're similar in the sense of I'm scared about the pitching that you'll see. In a 3-game series, it's different than our 60-game output where we're trying to battle. They have 2 top-end starters to throw at you to try to get 2 wins needed to move on from the first round. Sonny Gray and Trevor Bauer have been lights out for the Cincinnati Reds. Not familiar with their stats? Well, let me get you caught up a little bit. Okay? So Sonny Gray is towards the top in strikeouts in the league at a total of 45. He's averaging 13 per game. 2.05 ERA. 4-1 on the season. He only 7 earned runs so far over 30 innings. He has been great. Trevor Bauer, better. Only 3 starts, but .93 ERA, 32 strikeouts, only giving up 2 earned runs so far this year. 2 home runs is what it is. So you are struggling to get anything from him. And their whip, Trevor Bauer .57, Sonny Gray .91. That's the first 2 guys you got to get through. If you get through that, Luis Castillo is the 3rd guy, and his numbers don't look nearly as dominating, but as a 3rd starter, he could sneak up on you. 3.91 ERA so far. Obviously want to see that come down. Whip, 1.43. Again, obviously want to see that come down. But he's been getting better, and he still averages 12 strikeouts over 9 innings as well. So he has the ability to come in and be tough on a team early. I wouldn't be surprised to see him come in, throw 4 innings, you don't get much out of them, and then they go to their bullpen, and things get figured out, and they're a tough out. And even though their offense hasn't been fully healthy, producing like they should, they have bats that scare me. Nicholas Castellanos, he was hot on the start of the year. He's cooled off down to 267 right now. But he is a big-time stick for them, along with Eugenio Suarez, batting 123. I know, not great. But he's a power stick, has the ability to do things. Joey Votto, still a disciplined guy at the plate. Freddie Galvis has been turning things around for the Reds a little bit. Jesse Winker has been awesome for the team so far. Their offense scares me. They have, hopefully, Mike Moustakas coming back at some point here in the future. That's only going to help boost them even more. Matt Davidson splitting some first base DH time. They have the potential to be a sneaky team, low seed, that comes in and upsets somebody in an MLB playoff 3-game series. Wouldn't want to see them on my schedule going forward. A third team that I find scary in the sense of how they're playing right now, but also what their strength would be, is the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, they had an awful start to the season. Awful, awful, awful. Their best player, Christian Yelich, his numbers look not too good. But things have been getting better for them. They took 3 out of 4 from the Cubs. Got themselves back to 500. If they have a lead, I am nervous about facing their bullpen. I'll just put it lightly. I mean, Josh Hader, we know what he is. One of the best closers in the game, will shut you down. He's got 5 saves on the year. He's given up nothing. Not a thing to anybody this year. 0 earned runs over 6 1/3 inning pitched. 10 strikeouts. He's been great. But he's not the only guy who's been good for them. Devin Williams, 1.04 ERA over 8 2/3. David Phelps, 1.04 ERA over 8 2/3. Both of them over 9 innings, averaging double-digit strikeouts. They have been awesome. If Corey Knebel comes back to being something, I'm interested in him as well. Potentially 4 okay guys. Somehow Alex Claudio has been all right. Eric Yardley has been fine. It's been starting pitching inconsistencies for them. And they have guys that have been okay in Woodruff and Hauser, but it's the rest of the team. And then it's offensive production. You don't want to be down against this Brewers team. You don't want it. And luckily, for a lot of the teams they played, they just aren't scoring runs. Talked about Yelich, batting 194. Believe it or not, he's actually been turning things around slightly. Keston here at 225. Needs to get better. Justin Smoke, 206. He has been better turning things around, but it's not good enough. I mean, their leading hitter is Avisail Garcia, 234. On base percentage of 329. Not enough. They need to start getting some production. Sneakily, Orlando Arcia batting 304. And then the young guy, Luis Urias, who was traded for, is batting 474 for the Brewers. Only 6 games in, but he's a name to watch moving forward. The fourth team that I just would not want to see if it came to a 3-game series is a team that's slumping right now. They scare me. And again, remember, these are under-the-radar teams. I'm not looking at the best of the best because obviously, like a Dodgers team, I wouldn't want to see them in any series. But the Colorado Rockies scare me in the sense of they have a couple good starters. Good enough starters to get them through 4 or 5 innings. Then they have a great closer, or at least a guy that has some pretty darn good stuff at the back end of that bullpen in Jairo Diaz. Ken, Herman Marquez, and Kyle Freeland, and even Antonio Senzala, can they pitch well enough to just let the offense do work? I think this top 5 is one of the scariest top 5s in the batting order in the MLB. Charlie Blackmon leading the league at 429 batting average. Okay. 2-man. Trevor Story batting 309. Pretty darn good. Leadoff, can't forget about him because Blackman's playing that well at the 3 spot. Garrett Hampson is batting over 300 as well. Been great for the team. Then you have Nolan Arenado sitting at 4. The weakest of them right now at 233, but we know he's still a great bat. Then Daniel Murphy at 282. That's the top 5. They've been great. You can tell me they're playing in Colorado, whatever. But then you also have a Matt Kemp guy who's swinging the bat and still reviving his career for somehow, some way for some teams. This offense could be scary and could hit you out of a series, especially if they're getting any games in Colorado, if you want to use that to an advantage. Now, right now, with the way that it's breaking, my guess would be they'd be the opposing team, because you got to remember, wherever this 3-game series goes, all 3 games are going to be played there. But regardless, this is some guys. That top 5, potentially 6, is scary for putting up runs. I wouldn't want to be facing him. I really would not want to be. And then the last team that I would not want to see under the radar in a 3-game series, and I'm gonna get some backlash potentially for saying this, but what is up with this Miami Marlins team? I'm assuming scouting's going to catch up to them, and they're going to falter. They're going to fall. The biggest advantage they had is nobody knew who a lot of these guys were that they had. There was no information on them. We're trying to figure out what's going on. But regardless of that, when you are coming into games with so much less talent than the other team across the field, and yet they're still finding a way to win games, that's a team that's just having fun and knows what they're doing. Manage well. Mattingly's doing a great thing with that Marlins team, considering all the distractions they've had. They have revived Jesus Aguilar from his All-Star season. Batting .279, 4 home runs, 15 RBIs. He's been great for them. They're getting just enough from other guys, batting over that .230 mark. Batting averages obviously aren't what they used to be, but people are taking turns bringing in run production, getting on base. They also are getting some sneaky pitching. We've talked about this previously. The list of guys who have pitched for the Marlins this season is high. They've had so many guys get spot starts, spot appearances, so that it's hard to get any real consistency. But when it comes to some starting pitching that they've had, Pablo Lopez has been all right for the team. 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, 2.25 ERA. Can start a game for you. He can be okay. Who our other starters are going to be for this team, nobody really knows at this point. Jordan Yamamoto, he's gotten 3 starts, but he's been getting hit around this year. Elzer Hernandez, he's got 3 starts, 1.84 ERA. He's been a bit of a surprise, but he hasn't been going late into games. Win-loss, he has none recorded on both sides. So Lopez really is the guy that's looking like would be their first pitcher to go with. But then we also have a ton of guys that we thought were going to be their starters that just haven't been there with the team, healthy, anything. Caleb Smith was going to be a guy to start a lot of games. Well, he only got 3 innings in so far. He's been fine in those 3 innings, but we're just trying to find some consistency. And there's something about a team that if you're not getting a great deal of consistent play and they're still winning games, there's something scary about that team. Being able to eke out wins means something in my book. And I wouldn't want to see the team that's doing it. And I'm wondering still if Brandon Kinsler is having a revival with this Marlins team and is shutting the door pretty well for them. There's just so many questions. I try to look at their numbers, dig into them, and find out how do they have a winning record. It's so unbelievable. They're barely outscoring their opponents. They're barely getting enough guys to be consistently playing or pitching? What is it? I want more information. They've caught my eye. I need to see more. So I'm just interested in them. So that's 5 teams that under the radar I would not want to see in a 3-game series because I think they could sneak one out on you. Will they all make the playoffs? I don't know. We'll see. We'll wait and see on that. There's a potential that these guys couldn't. I think a couple of them will for sure. We think the Rays will for sure. The Rockies are going to be interesting. That Brewers team is interesting. Same with the Reds. You never know. So that's going to be it for today's episode on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. I want to thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. It means a great deal. Leave a positive review if you can. It does a lot for us here. It tells us what we're doing right, what you're liking, maybe some ideas that you want to have for a future podcast. I've gotten some of those, and we've thrown those into the episodes because we love giving the fans what they want. So it's been awesome. I hope you guys have a great night, day, whenever you're listening to this. Look forward to talking to you guys again here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast and the GSMC Podcast Network.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.